We're gonna talk about the solar lunar calendar, understanding the heavens, the seasons, the agricultural seasons, the feast days of the Most High. Waiting on these two people to come. Where are they? Oh, Empress, you're here. Shalom, Moni. Okay, send your request to come up. Oh, guess. Okay, I have to do this. Okay.
Greetings.
Yeah, greetings. Shalom. All right, so I don't see coming to grace as yet. So we're going to talk about the solar lunar calendar, which is very different from what most people are accustomed to, right? This controls the agricultural cycle, and one of the things they do is they demonize the elements. So naturally, people turn away from understanding it and understand what they do to affect things in the earth, meaning the planting cycle, animals, and even us as humans too. It things affect us as well. Everything affects us because our bodies react to the constellations. Sensations in our body has to deal with the constellations, and this is why it fuels the ego so much. This is why it can tell you so much about your behavior. You understand? Earth, air, water, fire, we are comprised of these elements, so you can see what aspect of your behavior is being affected by what element. You understand? So fire deals with the spiritual, water deals with the emotional state, air deals with your mental state, and as you know, earth deals with also your body, right? So it affects humans, the plants and everything, right? Now we're going to deal with the calendar. Let's go to Genesis chapter 1 and verse 14. It says, yeah, my throat is kind of sore, but I'm still going to make it work. It says, and God said, let there be lights in the firmament. So it's plural here, of the heaven, to divide the day from the night. That's one function. And this is the thing about the Hebrew. Things are defined according to their function, right? It says one of the lights gonna divide the day from the night. It says, let them be for signs. It says, and for seasons. Seasons meaning holy days, feast days, going into the ceremonial laws, right? And for days and for years. So in order for us to understand the different lights, we need to understand the functions, because here it talks about the functions, right? So when you're dealing with the light that divides day from night, which light in the heavens carry that function? The only thing that separates day from night or darkness from light is the sun, right? So sun deals with the day. It tells you the years, right? It says, and for nights come from the moon and the constellation. So when the night starts, when you see the stars starting to appear, right, and there's a kind of darkness coming over the heavens, so it goes through a twilight process right there, right, where you can see in both lights. So dusk is the ending of the day and it's the ushering in of the night, right? So one has to end for the other to begin. It's just like some people would say in the English culture, some people say death is a part of life. No, death is the ending of life. So night is not part of the day. Night is the ending of the day. If we understand that. Matter of fact, let's go to Ecclesiasticus chapter 33 to understand the nature of the Most High and his creation. Right? Shalom, Juliet, Avery, Kerry, Amor, Amy, welcome. We're having a discussion about the solar lunar calendar, understand the heavens and see the things the heavens testify of, right? So now we're understanding the nature of creation of the Most High. It says, so look upon all the works of the Most High, and there are two and two, one against the other. So when you're dealing with the Most High, you're dealing with things created in pairs, right? Consciousness carries a dual nature. So day and night, guess what? They're separated. And once the Most High separate or divide something, there's no man on the face of the earth that has the authority to put together what the Most High put apart. For example, he separated the seas from the dry land, right? So earth is the part that is called dry land, where you build your houses, where the trees grow. That's earth. The water where the ships sail, right? That's the seas. The air, the atmosphere where the birds flies, the planes fly, the clouds, that's the heavens, right? So the heaven, the earth, and the seas, they are separated. So you cannot put them together and just call everything earth. No, ships do not sail on the earth. Ships sail on the sea. You understand? Were you gonna say something, Empress?
I was gonna ask the question of where this 24-hour clock or 24-hour day came from.
The Romans, right? Because like I said, in the ancient Semitic culture, everything is defined according to their function. Now, what this modern culture does is everything that the Most High separated, it tries to bind it together, changing the narratives of the laws of nature. So when you hear the word day in this modern culture, people put night in the equation of day. So now when they get to the scriptures and they're reading it, what happens is they're reading it through the prism of that mindset that they got from this culture, where this culture define things for them. So now when they read the word day, they do not see day as day. They see day and night as day. So this is real. This really came from the Greco-Roman culture, that concept, because everyone understood here. Let's go back to Genesis. What is the understanding of a day is? Sorry, I'm gonna read Genesis 1 verse 3 to 5. It says, "And God said, Let there be light, singular, and there was light. And God saw the light that it was good." And remember, good in Hebrew is different from good in English. Good means it's functional. Not, oh, it's a good feeling, or oh, it's beautiful. No, it's functional, it's operational, right? It says, and God saw that the light, and God saw the light that it was good, and God divided the light from the darkness. So the first thing we're seeing here, everything the Most High creates, he divides. He created the sea, the dry land, he divided them. He created the light, there is darkness, he divided them. So the Most High divides everything. So this is why I said consciousness carries a dual nature. So here in verse 5 says, "And God called the light day, and the darkness he called night. And the evening and the morning were the first day," meaning, and there was evening and there was morning. Now this is where the problem is. In the English culture, people do not have a concrete understanding of what an evening is. So they attribute evening to night, right? And they, in order for them to do that, guess what? There's going to be an empty space. So they try to fill it with another word called afternoon. When midday is past, midday is not 12 o'clock, right? Midday is when the sun is at its highest point in the sky, right? So it's called solar noon. So, for example, people who go by the clock system, you'll find that in the spring, when they're like 12 hours in the day, 12 o'clock is midday for them. In the summer, when there's like 14 to 16 hours of daylight, it's still 12 o'clock. That's impossible. So you see, in the winter, when the daylight period is shorter, right, it's still 12 o'clock being midday. That has to be problematic. Midday is only when the sun is at its highest point, right? No, because of that clock system, when people go to regions beyond, like in the north, right, like in Sweden, and those places up there, what happens is that they see the sun just moving around the horizon like this. Like, we're here in the middle, we see a rising of a sun and a going down. In those places, in certain places in England and so forth, in the north, you only see the sun going, it's like it never rises and it never sets at certain time of the year. This is where they came up with the daylight saving time. Now, the daylight saving time, this is the further you are away from the sunrise, it's like a little bit back. Like for example, um we're here in Jamaica now, right? When you go to people like in California, based on where they are, probably they are like we're having 2:27 now. Probably in California they are 2 hours behind. You understand? Probably they're just at 12:30. So the farther away you go from the sunrise, that's how the time go, and they calculate it on a system where it's say 15 degrees back. So they use one specific era to say that's the universal starting of the time, which is Greenwich, London, right? But prior to the dominance of the British rulership, right? Every country would have their own 0 degrees. So the 0 degrees in France is going to be based on France, the time the sun hits there. It's not based upon, and it's just since recent, a lot of these countries join on to this committee program, the International Dateline Committee. You understand? They all came together and came up with this one thing. So the thing about that is you will see two countries side by side having the same sunset, the same sunrise, but they are 24 hours apart. Because like the Samoa Island, one part of it is belongs to America, one part belongs to Russia, and then this time period, the one that belongs to Russia will have the Russian time period, the one that belongs to America will have the American time period, right? So this came from there where they're trying to impose the clock hours and the realities in places in Alaska and so forth with this the midnight sun. No, but then before you have a clock, everybody would understand that oh, the sun is there, it's daylight period. So even if you have 20 hours of sun in the summer, you would still understand that that is daylight. You understand? So when they try to look at reality through the prism of the mind state of the Western world, this is where everything gets messed up, everything gets jacked up. We call things and there's no reality to it. So there's no such thing as a day is 24 hours. No, a day start a day start when the night ends. The night starts when the day ends, and that's the cycle of it. You understand? So back to Genesis when it says, back to Genesis when it says, and God said, "Let there be light." Before we go there, let's go to verse 2. It says, "And the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep." Darkness. So we have to understand that darkness is beyond time. There's no concept of time here. This is literal darkness. For example, if you should go into a cave or go into maybe even some clubs or in a submarine, you don't, that's literal darkness there. You understand? There's no concept of time. No, when it says let there be light, when the sun came into motion, start doing its office, guess what? The darkness that came afterwards is not the same as the darkness that came before. The darkness that came when the sun came into the picture, guess what? It's measurable. So when the sun comes in the picture and leave, the darkness that's there is about 12 hours. It's measurable. But prior to Genesis chapter 1, verse 3, when it says darkness was upon the face of the deep, there was no motion, there was no movement, there was no activity, there was no concept of time. Was just literal darkness. It was not subject to 12 hours of darkness, or 14 hours of darkness, or 16 hours. Right? So we should come back to the realities of the scripture to understand what things mean, what words mean, because everything carry their own meaning. You have something you want to say?
No, I think that because that's what I was alluding to. It's because they're trying to make a connection or trying to come to make a connection between reality and their version of time, and that's why I thought that that was something that they developed.
And when you take away reality from the equation, this is why when we talk about certain things, it's hard for people to even process it. Like for example, here it says, "And the evening and the morning were the first day." Remember, he already had two things, day and night, right? He separated them. So here in the West, we are having daylight. In the East, they're having night. They separated them. It says, and the evening and the morning were the first day. It has nothing to do with what's going on over in Russia and the other places in Europe and China and so forth. Evening and the morning were the first day, right? Night has nothing to do with morning or evening. So people don't understand, once the Most High separate them, you cannot join them back together. So he says day and night, day and night. And it says the evening and the morning were the first day. How can you put back night into this now? This is what they do. So they're trying to get the realities of God to fit into the prism of their minds, the perceptions of their minds. So this is why, even though people have the Bible today, it still doesn't make much sense to them, because reality itself does not make sense to these people. So they try to fit reality into the prisms of their minds, rather than understanding that, hey, this is just the state of my mind looking at reality. The mind cannot perceive reality. The mind cannot perceive God, right? Consciousness has to take the form of the mind to relate to objects. So even time is an object of consciousness. Because what is time really? Let's talk about that before we even go further. Let's deal with what is time. So let's read from Genesis chapter 1, right? It says, in the beginning, verse 1, in the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. And the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep, and the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters. So verse 1 and verse 2 is really like a narrator speaking. So time is a concept of the human mind, right? It's a concept of the human mind. Now, what it really is the interval between two activities or two events or two thoughts. So, for example, this is where the first thought comes in. Verse 3 says, and God said, let there be light. So the first thought is, let there be light. The second thought is, and there was light. So the distance between let there be light and there was light, the distance between these two intervals are these two activities, are these two events, that is called time. Do you understand that before I go further?
Yes, I'm getting you.
Oh, okay, okay, all right, good, right. So time is a concept of the human mind. So what happened is, now we don't understand that we live in in eternity. We live in the eternal now. Everything takes place in now. But what the mind does is, the mind is backwards. The mind thinks that now is taking place in time, but it's the other way around. It is time that is taking place in eternity, which is now. Right? So time is only based upon your experiences. When you go to sleep, what is your experience of time? When you go to sleep, there's no activities, there's no event. What is your experience of time when you go to sleep? The mind is not present, so activity is not present, event is not present, so therefore you do not have a concept of time. The only reason why, for example, you can say, oh, you slept 8 hours last night, is because you remember the last thing before you go to sleep was maybe 10 o'clock. And the first thing you wake up in the morning was maybe say 8 o'clock. So you know you can measure between 10 o'clock last night and 8 o'clock this morning to say, okay, I slept about 8 hours or so forth. But if you notice, when you fall asleep during the day, you have no clue. Sometimes you say, oh, I was just napping for 5 minutes. Maybe 2 hours passed, right? Because what, that's to show you how much you lose activities, sense of activities are events. So time is just a concept of the mind. So we have to understand that everything we do it in the eternal now. For example, you woke up this morning, you said, I'm going to take a shower. No. So you go to the bathroom, right? I'm going to have breakfast. No. I'm going for a walk. No. I'm going into the garden. No. All the things that you do takes place in the no. But when you measure from one activity to another, that's where you get the concept of time. So everything takes place really in no. Go ahead and say what you're gonna say.
Yeah, I remember a conversation where I don't remember who said it, but basically, no is the only time that exists. The past doesn't exist and the future doesn't exist.
We have to We have to prove that with reality for some people to understand it. So, like I said, can you physically go to a place called past, or can you go to a place called future? No, it's only through thoughts you can do it. Shalom, chef. It's only through thoughts you can go to a place called the past or to a place called the future. So this is why I said ego lives in the past and the future. It's either trying to acquire something or it's regretting something that it should have done, right? But when you come to this place called no, you find out that you find peace, right? So this that only exists in the mind. Now to prove that the thing called future does not exist, right? If you should take your phone and go into the app called the stopwatch and say you want to see how long the no lasts, the period of this no that we are at right now, how long it lasts. If you go into the stopwatch and you start it, when would you end it? You see, there's no ending. So this is why I said the future, the thing that we call future is just a concept in the mind. The thing that we call past is just a concept in the mind. So whatever activity you speak about in the past, the moment you did it was when it was no. Just like you cannot do something tomorrow until tomorrow becomes no. Anything that you do, it has to be done in the no. So no is not something in time that's moving and shifting and so forth. Time is just how we relate to things and the mental aspect. Consciousness is superior to the timing and to the states of the mind. So that's something that we need to understand from that standpoint. You have something you want to say? Do you understand what I just explained about the concept of time?
Yes, I do. I was in agreement with what you're saying. Yeah.
Let's go back to the day thing, right? The day comes from the sun. Matter of fact, I need to find this in the book of Jeremiah because people are confused about when the day is, when the night is. Because the only reason why they're confused is because they do not anchor their belief system to a reality. The Gregorian calendar is not anchored on anything, it's just based upon concepts of the mind, right? I want to find this scripture in the book of Jeremiah. I think it's 31 verse 35. It says, thus saith Yahweh, which giveth the sun for a light by day. Remember we read in Genesis 1 verse 14 when it's saying, let them be for to divide the day from the night. So the sun is what rules the night. The sun is what rules the day. The brighter light rules the day. So here it's saying in Jeremiah 31:35, who giveth the sun for a light by day. So when he says the greater light rules the day, the greater light is the sun. It rules the day, right? So when he says he called the light day, that's what he means, right? It says, and the ordinance of the moon and of the stars for a light by night. So this is why we said the moon and the constellations, they have the authority or the dominion over the night, right? So this is showing what? A separation that the Most High made, and that separation he used these objects to anchor to his reality. So when you see the sun, it doesn't matter if it lasts 16 hours, it's still there. There's no such thing as midnight sun. Once you're seeing the sun wherever you are, that is called daylight, right? So it says, and the ordinance of the moon and of the stars for a light by night, which divided the sea when the waves therefore roar. Yahweh of hosts is his name. So we're seeing what he means when he says he divides the day from the night, right? So the evening and the morning belongs to the period of the sun. Now, how do you put that into practicality? What is the morning? When the sun breaks dawn, so you go through that twilight process where you see the sky is no longer has that dark look. There's a brighter light coming over. You don't see the object of the sun as yet, but you can see a brighter light coming over the heavens and the stars starting to disappear. So the morning begins at the disappearing of the star, right? The night starts at the appearing of the stars. So this is the division. Spirituality has to have a form of tangibility or manifestation to it. And when you don't have a form of some people think, oh, spiritual doesn't mean that it doesn't take a form or image. There has to be something. Your faith has to have something tangible to it. This is what most right. This is what a lot of people don't understand, and they get caught up into being spiritual. It doesn't matter how spiritual you be; it has to be manifested in the natural. Doesn't matter how spiritual you are; your spirituality has to be manifested in the natural. So guess what? Even if a person is sick and doctor cannot explain the sickness, and then the person just get a vision in the night and see some whatever works, right? When the person wakes up tomorrow, it's going to show that that person is no longer, you don't, even if the process is not there, you still have to see the manifestation of that healing or whatever. So spirituality does not mean that it negates the natural world, and this is when most people lost it, right? So yes, so we understand the days come from the sun. Shalom, Tamar, Sergio, Memoon, Lady Dan. We understand the day comes from the sun, and the years also come from this thing, from the sun. So the sun starts at 0 degrees east, right? It goes for 6 months. It starts heading north. So when the sun starts traveling north, this is where now, like people in Canada and certain places in Europe and so, this is when the ice starts to melt, right? The more the sun travels north of the east, because remember, like I said, it rises 0 degrees east in the beginning of the cycle. It starts to travel north of the east, and the more it travels north, it's the more it melts the ice in places like Canada and so forth. And then it goes on into the summer months. So we have longer periods of daylight over in the northern hemisphere. Then it switches after that and go back over on the other side where it does the same thing for the same period of time. So that's the courses of the year. Now, when does it start? When the sun does its period over the northern hemisphere, goes back over to the southern hemisphere, it crosses a certain point. Now you have to wait until the new moon after it crosses the equator. This is where most people have their feast days wrong, because the sun has to first cross the equator, and then you have to wait until the new moon after the sun crosses the equator, because 12 moons is in a month. I mean, sorry, is in the course of a year. So guess what? And yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, okay. Mhm.
Okay, so I'm saying the sun does its circuit, right? Its circuit, right? And within this circuit, it's 12 moons it has to pass through 12 moons, and this is how we get season as in year tide. The sun passing through these different constellations gives us autumn, winter, spring, summer. So it has to go through 12 moons, 12 months. And like I said, the most important thing for people to understand is when the sun crosses what you call the equator, you have to wait until the first moon or the first month, right? Which is the same thing. People who follow the Gregorian calendar, this is why they have April Fool's Day, April 1st, because when it crosses on the 19th, the 20th, and the 21st of March, right? You still have to wait until the next month. Their next month on the Gregorian calendar would be April. So the 1st of April would be recognized as the beginning of the year, the first month of the year. You have to wait until the new moon after it crosses the equator. Otherwise, you're going to find out that your constellations are not going to be aligned on your feast days. You know, like for example, we know the birthdays are incorrect, right? Because every year our birthday changes, whether we are aware of it or not. The reason why we are not aware is because we don't tie it to the constellations. So if you notice that, okay, you're born on this day of the month, right? It falls on this day of the week this year. Next year it falls on another day, and it keeps changing. The constellations, when you look, then they're never aligned. But once you go by the constellations and you date according to the constellations, you'll see that every time you keep a certain feast, it's always the same constellations. So whatever you're out, when you gather together, when you assemble together, it's always the same powers you are channeling on your feast days. Yeah, go ahead, go ahead.
Are you saying that the day that you're celebrating your birthday, it is different every year, even though we're celebrating it on the same day? Like, if, for example, I'm born on the 10th of the month, and if every year I'm celebrating it on the 10th of the month, I may be celebrating my birthday wrong?
what people don't understand is because the Gregorian calendar is not anchored to anything. So you'll notice that, okay, look at take a calendar, look at your birthday this year, what day it falls on. Now go to 2026 and look at your birthday and see if it falls on the same day.
No,
It's,
it's it should not be.
right, it does not. But when you go by the constellations to say, okay, the 14th day of the first moon shall be the Lord's Passover, guess what? The 14th day of the first moon will always be the 14th day of the first moon. So we know this is why you see next week is going to be our Passover, right? Because the 12th of April, the new moon was the first moon of the year. That's when you see, when you look around, you see all the trees with the pink flowers. That's the first moon after the sun crosses the equator. So that lets you know that that's the first moon of the year. It brings those pink flowers, and it's the one that falls after it crosses the equator. Now, 14 days after that, it's going to be the black moon, right? So 14 days after the new moon, it's going to go into the black moon. And then you know that that's going to be a Passover. So it's always the same. The 14th day of the first moon is always the 14th day of the first moon. But my birthday is January 3rd. Guess what? It's not always the same day. Sometimes it's on the Wednesday, it's on this shape of the moon, it's on that shape of the moon, it's on that alignment of Cancer. It's not the same. So it's an illusion that people believe into this concept that the Gregorian calendar carries a reality to it. No, it only carries a concept. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Right, right. So when your calendar is anchored to the heavens, it's always going to produce the same result. So it's the same like people who farm according to the moon. You're always going to produce the same consistency in your crop. Most people, they just plant whenever they think that, oh, Saturday is the Sabbath, so they plant on other days. But when the Sabbath falls on a Gregorian Saturday and they go and plant, they don't see they violate the laws of agriculture. For example, our Sabbath, our solar lunar Sabbath is now in alignment with Saturday and the Gregorian calendar. Yesterday was our Sabbath. If you looked at the moon yesterday, you would see it was a Sabbath, right? We do not plant on those days. You understand? So they demonize these elements, and then you are there now doing all your agriculture stuff, and you're wondering why the Most High is not yielding, why the earth is not responding to you, that it responds to other people, not realizing that, hey, you're violating the laws of reality, the laws of agriculture that He told you not to violate. It's as simple as that. You get that?
Yeah, it makes a lot of
Right, definitely. So it's important for us who say we are serving the Most High, or want um to follow the Most High. We have to at least tie ourselves to something, because here it says in Genesis chapter 1 and verse 14, He said it plain that, let's read it all down. It says, and God said, let there be lights. Remember, at first He said light, so He was talking specifically about one thing, right? Now He said, let there be lights in the firmament of the heaven to divide the day from the night, and let them be for signs, and for seasons, and for days, and years, and let them be for lights in the firmament of the heaven. In, not out. Like they want to show us like the earth is a round ball floating in a dark whatever, and there's the sun over there, and no, it's over your head, right? This is what people don't understand. Even the word light carries a function in Hebrew, because when you think about light in English, when you think about light, what's the function of light? You see, it doesn't carry that concrete reality. But when you think about light in Hebrew, guess what? Light brings about order. So in darkness, there's no order. So the Most High brings in light. So when you come home from work in the evenings and your room is dark, the first thing before you move anything from point A to point B, the first thing you do is you switch on the light to bring about order. Then you start to do what? Move things in places. So this is the functionality of light. It brings about order, right? It says, let them be for lights in the firmament of the heaven to give light up upon the earth. So they're in the firmament of the heaven to give light where? Upon the earth. So when the light shines through the atmosphere, it doesn't carry certain effect. This is why you see when you go up in to a certain level, guess what? There's no day and night. Because where was the light supposed to take place? It says to give light upon the earth, the dry ground. That's where the light impacts. So it needs a solid object because what? Solid objects block light. So for example, right now in front of me, you're seeing light. You're seeing an open light, clear light. The reason why you can see my hand is because my hand is a solid object that blocks light. So you can see the form. You can see the shape. The trees block light. So you can see the shape of it. Shalom, Dr. Danet Hosman, Jam, illuminated, right? Surgery, right? So we it's important for us to understand the realities of light and the casting of shadows for us to understand even the operations of the Most High. It's important for us to anchor things into reality because He spoke the word and the word became flesh. The word took a form. So that's the relationship with light because when you look up there, it's just white light. You understand? It's just white light, but it's the solid object. So the light was to give light upon the earth. Where am I? 15. And it was so. And God made two great lights, the greater light to rule the day, and the lesser light to rule the night. He made the stars also, so they are above us. This is why, for example, we are down here. You have the sun and the moon. The reason why you look up to see what you call an eclipse, is because it's happening above. So the sun is above our head, but the sun is not as big as the earth. It only can cover half of the earth. So guess what? The sun is over in our part right now, right? So in the west, we are having daylight. The sun is not shining over in the east. So you're not gonna find night in Russia right now. You're not gonna find night in Ukraine, in certain parts of England, and you understand. So the sun is not bigger than the earth. The sun can only do half. That's the division of light and dark. It goes around. Yeah, go ahead.
Question. So you're saying that the sun is not bigger than the earth. It's not a case where, as scientists say, the sun is way larger than the earth, but the distance from the earth makes it possible for it to illuminate the earth without consuming the earth, right? So the appearance of the size of the sun is not dictated by the distance from the earth.
Is the largest of God's creation because in it, anything that falls from above, it would land on earth. There's nothing that's going outside of earth. Earth is the biggest thing. This is why they cannot study the depths of the earth, not even the depths of the ocean, for them to even think about the heavens. The earth is the biggest of God's creation. If the sun was bigger, right? It does. Remember, the higher the light is the more it shines into. Shines below. So if the sun is as high as it is, and if it's the size that they claim it is, guess what? It would be shining also over in the east. The sun is not that big. That's their concept. Just like they tell you that, oh, the sun is such and such distance from earth. Okay. In order for you to know the distance between yellow and green, you'd have to know where both of them are, right? So, like, if in order for you to know that Jamaica is 90 miles from Cuba, you'd have to know where the location of Jamaica is, and you have to know where the location of Cuba is. Nobody knows the location of the sun. These are all estimation and approximations and ideologies and so forth. So you cannot say from the earth to the sun is 20 centimeter because you don't know where the distance of the sun is. So all of that is ideologies. These are concepts. You have to know point A and point B, and this is where you get space. You understand what I'm saying? So all of these are there. These are European concepts. We do not live by European concepts. The sun is not bigger than the earth. Everything holds on the earth. Nothing is bigger than the earth.
Okay.
Yeah, you have any other questions before we?
No, I thought it was important to ask that one for clarification because remember we are taught differently. So, and that I think explains why there is such a confusion as it relates to how time is measured and all of these different things too.
To filter reality through the concept of the mind, and this is why it creates so much confusion. Because remember, the mind is like this. The mind is like, matter of fact, let me get this scripture because I like to use the scriptures to paint the reality that I'm trying to show. In the book of the Apocrypha, Ecclesiasticus, hold on, 37 and verse 14, it says, "For a man's mind is sometime wont to tell him more than 7 watchmen that sit above in an high tower." So imagine if 7 watchmen are in a tower, they're going to see 7 different things. So that's the nature of the mind. We're going to all have many different perceptions. Now, when you remove the mind, we're all seeing one consciousness. This is what it talks about in the end when it says we're going to be caught up in what? In the glories of the Most High. So no longer you're going to have your perception. No longer I'm going to have my perception. Those people not going to have. It's going to be one reality that we're seeing. You understand? Let me get another scripture where it says, like we see through a glass. I think it's in Corinthians chapter 12. Let me see if I can find it. First Corinthians chapter 12, verse 2. That's not it.
There's no we see in
Yeah, go
sight.
ahead. Yeah,
Is the one that says no we see in part. But then what we will see plainly. That's the scripture you're talking about.
as far now we see through a glass. So the glass is the state of our mind. We see different perceptions of reality, right? But when we are caught up in the glories of God, guess what? Our perceptions will no longer be there. We're just going to be seeing reality as it is. So it's the same way when seeking God. The mind cannot know God. God is a spirit. The mind only deals with matter. The reason why you're aware of matter is because of the mind. When the mind goes away, what is your knowledge of matter? So when you go to sleep, this is why I said there are no activities, so there are no concept of time, because the mind deals with activities, because consciousness has to take the form of the mind so it can relate to these things, but it's not subject to these things. So this is why you see it is always through meditation. Our forefathers go to heaven to know God. We are trying to get to know God through the mind, and the mind cannot know God. It says it in so many scriptures that talking about the flesh. The flesh is the dark thoughts of the mind. You cannot know God through that. This is why he comes when we are what? Asleep. He comes in visions and dream, because there's a realm between the arm where the soul is. He comes through that portal. He doesn't come through the flesh like this. It's too corrupted for him. So we have to get rid of certain perceptions, and this is why the knowledge of the law is there to point our minds in the direction of reality, right? So if this is here and I'm pointing to it, it's like you're following my finger to go there. So this is what the scriptures are. They're pointing us in a direction to go to God, but it's not to go out there. It's a place beyond our mind. God is a spirit, and they that worship him must worship him in spirit and truth. Dr. Janet Dannett. Right, exactly. So this is why you see our forefathers always go through prayer and meditation. They do it, fasting, prayer, and meditation is one and the same. I mean, they do it in one. To do what? Have an encounter with God, and through the encounter is where knowledge comes. Knowledge is not you read in the book. You read in the Bible does not give you knowledge. Knowledge is a personal encounter. Knowledge is revelatory. What we read here is we're taking information. Knowledge is something that is revealed. There's a difference. It's an encounter, your encounter with God. That's where you get knowledge from, right? So let's go back to Genesis, talking about the lights to deal with the moon. It says in 16, and God made 2 great lights, the greater light to rule the day and the lesser light to rule the night. He made the stars also, so we know that the lesser light would be the moon. So once the moon starts doing its office and the stars start doing their office, you know that That's the ushering of the night, right? So the moon determines nights, weeks, as in seventh, because people still don't understand what a week is, right? A week is 6 work days, then a rest day. But this has to be tied to the heavens. This has to be tied to the heavens. Let's get some more about the moon, right? This is Ecclesiasticus chapter 43 and verse 6. If you're not hearing me, if I'm talking and you're not hearing me, you notify me, because sometimes this is why I keep have to check it. Sometimes it goes out on me. It says, he made the moon also to serve in her season for a declaration of time. So the moon is what declares the seasons of the Most High, right? It says, and a sign of the world. From the moon is the sign of feast. The feast, yeah, I know you can hear me now. Thanks. The feast is dealing with the holy days, the Moedim of Yahweh. That's what the feast deals with, right? It says, from the moon is the sign of feast. So, like I said to you earlier, we started the first month of the year. Now, 14 days after is going to be our Passover. That's what it is. Every year is always going to be the same. When the pink moon comes in, after the sun crosses the equator, what they call the equinox, whatever it is, that thing there. 14 days after that, it's going to be the Passover, and it's always going to be the same. The 14th day of each month is always the 6th day of the week. Let me say that again. The 14th day of every month is always going to be preparation day. The 7th day of the month, not the week, the 7th day of the month is always going to be the 6th day of the week. The 21st day of the month is always going to be the 6th day of the week. So with the Most High, it never changes. When people try to filter his reality through the Gregorian calendar, that's where they have problem. Oh, your Sabbath changes every week. No, the moon never changes every week. It's your Gregorian calendar that's changing every week. Right? So now our Sabbath is on Gregorian Saturday. Guess what? Next time is going to be on a different day. It's going to be on a different day next time. And they're going to think that it's our moon that's changing. No, our moon is not changing. Your Gregorian calendar, that's why your birthday never falls on the same day. Because if it was so accurate, that means I'm January 3rd. If my birthday falls on a Wednesday, then every year it should be on Wednesday, January 3rd. It's because the Gregorian calendar is moving. And people don't understand that. So we tie our belief system or our faith, it's tied to a reality. We do not leave the natural world. Right, exactly. So it says, from the moon is the sign of feast. So when you go to Leviticus 23, and you read all the things, the feast day talks about the Passover, the Sabbath, the unleavened bread, the feast of Pentecost, the feast of harvest, the tabernacles, all of those is saying the same thing here. From the moon is the sign of feast. The moon determines the holy days. So how are you going to tell if without the moon, how are you going to tell when you're in the first month of the year? If we didn't experience that moon that just came after the sun crossed the equator, right? How would we know that we are in the first month of the year? So there still has to be a tangibility. There has to be a form of manifestation to the scriptures, because the scriptures are reality. The scriptures are not a concept. This is a reality. And this is going to be very confusing for people, because people are mostly tied. Most people, they have their concepts tied to imaginations. So when you're trying to show them that here there has to be a reality, I think I'm gonna bring up the edit verse, and the edit verse, I'm gonna join you in now. You can go ahead and say your piece. Welcome to Cosmic Royalty, talking about the solar lunar calendar. You're on board now, so you can go ahead and share. I'm gonna allow this person to speak. Yeah, go ahead, Mr. Edit Verse, or the Edit Verse. What's up? Yeah, yeah, I took him down. I see what he was doing. It just took me a while. Yeah, man, me take him down bigs. They, say them thing they don't always do. Me just there try to mute him at first. But then me disconnect him still. Can't stop them. The adverse to them though they everywhere. You know, want to stop the thing. You know. So I go on bigs with there and they drop in a little word and a reasoning same way. So back to the reasoning, Empress. So listen this part now. Verse 8, it says, the month is called after her name. What is the her in this passage? Remember, yeah, go ahead.
Moon.
Exactly. The month is called after her name, is called after the moon. So that's where the concept of month came from, right? It came from the moon. So we understand that the moon can only carry 29 or 30 days. There's no such thing as a 31 days, like in the Gregorian calendar. And what people don't understand that, yes, Satan said him. What people don't understand about that is that these things that we say, March 31st, August 31st, those days don't exist. The 11 days that are added comes after the 21st of March. I mean, sorry, yeah, the 21st of March. So that March 31, that August 31, May 31, all of those things are illusions. But there's nobody there to prove the Gregorian calendar wrong. You understand? Go to your calendar app and go to 1582 and look at what happens in October. It jumps all the way from the 4th of October to I think the 15th or something like that, right? So it's always going 11 days behind. So for example, our first moon, our pink moon started on the 12th of April this year, but next year is going to be on the 1st of April. You see what I'm saying? So people will think it's the moon that's moving, not realizing it's the Gregorian calendar does not have a connection to reality. For example, year comes from the sun, not from the months, right? So to say that 12 months of 365 days make a year, what you're trying to say here is that a year comes from the months. Then that is going against scriptures because the months and the months and the year, they don't compute, they do not add together. You understand what I'm saying? This is why I said there are 12 months in a year, but 12 months do not complete a year. Right? Who is gonna come up and prove the Gregorian calendar wrong? Nobody wants to prove it wrong because it's fitting for them. Because most people they work from Mondays to Fridays, so on Saturdays their office do not open, so they can tell themselves that oh, I'm in alignment with the keeping of the Sabbath. No, you're lying to yourself. You know that it's not right because the months do not complete the year. So to say 12 months of 365 days tell you the starting of the year, no, you're lying, right? Shalom, Lori. It's woven into all systems. Yeah, that's why I said that's why I talk about the international dateline recently um, to say they all came together. But a lot of the European countries were not part of the original agreement. I think France was not part of it. They later came in. A few countries did not agree at the first. And this is the confusion that it caused with the Samoa Islands when they had to change. Was it Samoa? Samoa Island in 2011 they had to change because they were switching their trade partners between America and their Asian counterparts, right? So they had to change their time zone. So guess what? The Adventists that worship on a Saturday, the Saturday would now become Sunday. So there was a big stir up in Samoa Island. You guys can look it up after you get off this. You can see for yourself back in 2011, right? But what's funny about that? 100 years ago, before that, the same day that was called Sunday, the same day that was called Saturday was Sunday. So all they did was bring it back to the original thing. You see? So they can go and change these concepts and these narratives because there's no reality connected to when your seventh day is. Go and check it out when you're done. You'll see all of that madness back in it's Samoa Island. Yeah, you're gonna say something?
No, it was just that.
So verse 8, it says, the month is called after her name, after the moon, increasing wonderfully in her changing. So okay, let me finish read it. Being an instrument of the armies above, shining in the firmament of the heaven. So the moon increases for a certain period. You have like 14 days, and then 14 days decreasing, and then it has 3 nights where it what do you call it, goes completely dark. You cannot see it. So like on the Passover, the 14th, the 15th, and the 16th day is going to be complete dark moon. You cannot see it. What is that synonymous with? You're going to see this. What is that synonymous? What happens on the Passover? The Messiah died, right?
Yeah.
So the Messiah would be the light of the world, figuratively. So he died on that day by evil men. So dark and light is kind of what you call it, metaphorically, good and evil. So the darkness are the evil people of the world took out the light of the world. So on the 14th day, even the heavens testify of it, because what happens? The moon goes dark on that day. Right? And the 14th day, that's the day that he got took out of the world. He resurrected three days and 3 nights after. What happened 3 days and 3 nights after a dark moon? When the moon goes dark, what happens 3 days and 3 nights are 14, 15, 16. What happens on the 17th? The moon, the light of the moon resurrects.
That's what they call it.
Don't speak so fast. Go ahead and let me hear what you say.
I'm asking if that's what it's called, the new moon.
You're asking if that's what who called the new moon? Me?
Yeah, I'm asking if that's what the definition of the new moon is.
No. That's the Roman concept of the new moon. The people that you see use that small piece of light, slivering thing. This came from the concept of the Romans, because when the moon goes dark, right, they wait until the light comes back to start their taxation period. And then you see they still go by the 7 and the 9 days thing, where they say they call it the IDs and the newness. You understand? So when you go 7 days, which would be a normal Sabbath, and then another 15 days, that's the same cycle. But it's just because they use their moons for taxation. The people today use it, but that moon cannot give you the accuracy of agriculture. You understand? So we don't go by the the Roman systems of the moon, because their moon was not for agricultural purposes or farming purposes, or the laws of nature. Their laws were for the taxation. We are sons and daughters of the soil. We live by the testimonies of the heavens. So the full moon is our new moon. This is why I said our feast days are always going to be on a black moon, because 15 days after the full moon is going to be black. 14 days after the full moon is going to be black. So this is what I'm trying to get to show you that the Passover was kept 14 days after the full moon, and you're going to see something. I'm going to show you something. This is Matthew chapter 27 and verse 45. It says, "No, from the 6th hour there was darkness over all the land until the 9th hour." So the 6th hour and the 9th hour would be on the Roman time, 3 o'clock. I mean, midday to 3, 4 o'clock, right? So right between there, it says there was darkness over all the land. Now, in reality, what do you know that can cause darkness over all the land?
An eclipse.
Exactly. I'm glad you said you hit it right there. So at his death, there was an eclipse. Now, what do you know about eclipse? What phase of the moon does a solar eclipse take place? The moon has to be what? Can an eclipse happen on a full moon?
If they're first.
When I'm turning off my microphone, you have to give me time for me to hear what you say. So go ahead and speak now, but allow me to turn off the microphone.
I was just saying, if I'm thinking of the imagery right, the full moon only occurs during a lunar eclipse.
Coming to Grace said full. Are you coming up, coming to Grace? I'm gonna send you an invite regardless. I know your internet is, but I'm still gonna send you the invite. Yeah, what I'm saying is it says the darkness over the land. So when the moon goes completely dark, that's the only time you get a full eclipse where the day turns night. Remember, if there's a full moon and there's an eclipse, the light of the moon is gonna do its office. Sometimes even when there's eclipse, even stars come out. You understand? So this is just to show you that 14 days after the full moon was the Passover, and the eclipse confirmed that it was a black moon. I don't know if you receive what I'm saying.
Yeah, I see. Because I'm imagining when the scripture was read, when it was pointed out in scripture, that's how I imagined it to be. But funny enough, I asked a question one time of another group of people, and they didn't address it really. So I'm glad you pointed it out.
People they welcome coming to grace. Most people they go by the Greco-Romans narrative. So this is why they start the new moon at the white sliver. But at that white sliver, it does not carry that consistency of the seventh day. I understand, like, okay, for people who use the black moon, so on the 15th day of the moon, so on the second day of the black moon, I understand people who use that because it's still gonna be the seventh day. You understand what I'm saying? But the white sliver that people use, that has nothing to do with anything. That has nothing to do with nature. That only deals with the taxation of the Roman system. You cannot use that. That moon you can use to do your transplanting. It's good for that purpose. But you cannot count your cycles of 6 work days and seventh rest day with that phase of the moon. So this is why I said we have to choose what we're following. Are we following the testimonies of the heaven, where the heavens testify of what you do? Right? Are we just following a concept that has no reality to it? And most of these people, they do not engage in agricultural stuff to see, hey, oh shoot, this is why my crops are coming this way, are behaving this way, or this is why this happens when I plant on this time of the moon, at this time of the month. They do not observe these, they do not observe the realities of God to see how they can alter the outcome of whatever crops they're getting. You understand what I'm saying? We, all our forefathers, understood this knowledge. This is not something you go to read in a book. This is something that you just take your seed, you go into the soil, and nature will teach you whatever you need to know. Right? So even if you should go on Google right now and type in what's it called, solar eclipse, they will tell you it occurs on a new moon, but you'll see that what they call new moon is the black moon, because they know that the solar eclipse take place there. That's when the thing gets completely dark. The moon has to block out the sun completely. So that is also telling you that the moon travels lower than the sun. The sun is the highest thing. The sun travels higher than the moon for the moon to block out the sun. Admittedly, I have much to learn on this subject. Yeah. I mean, like I'm saying, once you start to put the knowledge into practicality, once you start, because learning is not about you going into this and read this book. People will read everything online, every book's in the library, and still cannot bring to fruition. Me being up here make my service worse. That's why I've been okay. No problem, no problem. Coming to grace. What I'm saying is knowledge comes after you take a conscious action. You can come down then come into grace. Knowledge comes after you take a conscious action. So once you consciously start to get into the planting and you start to connect things with things, connect it with reality, you're gonna see that you're gonna learn everything that you need to learn. You don't need a book to teach you knowledge. Knowledge is revelatory. Knowledge is an encounter. That's what I'm getting at. They want us to think that knowledge is something that you... Okay, so what about our forefathers who never learned to read back in the 1500s, 1600s? Are you saying that they lost their sense of reality? They lost their sense of agriculture? No, because that was never something that is read in a book. That is something that is in the consciousness of your spirit. Even Lil Wayne did that song, In the Tablet of My Mind, because I don't write. You know, he understood that this is your tablet, this is a consciousness. This is why even us, you notice that everywhere you go, people can dig up some history and find information. things written on stone. When they go to Egypt, they find stones with this information and that information. Why is it that we cannot find a connection to such information? Because we are the living stones. It's written in our consciousness. So guess what? You're talking to me, you might be seeing glimpses, reflections, images, meaning understanding will start to flow like water. You don't need to go to certain things to get it. It's in you. This is why we go into meditation. And this is why also when it comes down to knowledge, not everything that is revealed to you, you should make known to the public. Because sometimes the Most High reveals something to you is just for you to bear witness. Like for example, it was shown to John that, hey, when you baptize these people, you're going to be a witness to the Son of God coming down from heaven. That was his personal encounter with God. It's not something that to tell everybody. So sometimes God is showing you something. This is why they tell you guys you are false prophets and false prophetess and so forth. No, because they're trying to match the prophecies with their human timeline. Isaiah prophesied things that haven't taken manifestation yet. Moses spoke about things that hasn't come to pass yet. Does it make Moses a false prophet? Does it make Isaiah No. He said, Moses, these things will you reveal and these things you hide. So sometimes the Most High, you have an encounter with the Most High. That encounter is for you. Telling these people, you're only setting them up to stone you to death. That's what Korah did with Moses. So God only speak with you now, and Moses, what about us? He doesn't speak by us. Knowledge is an encounter, and that encounter is that is revelatory. Knowledge is revelatory. You understand? So we have to make a distinction between things we read in a book and then what is real knowledge. So we are the living stone. It's written on the consciousness of our heart, just like Lil Wayne said, and the tablet in the consciousness of the tablet of his mind. It's the same concept, right? So do we have any questions? I remember you must look up solar eclipse, and you will see that even on the Google it tells you that it happens on a black moon. That's the solar eclipse. So this is why the darkness was over all the land. It was a eclipse. So people don't get into the practicalities of these scriptures to understand it, to see what is real, because nobody wants their belief to be destroyed. Nobody wants to understand it because it's going to do what? Trigger a certain fear. Matter of fact, let's talk about this fear to see what the Bible says. We know what society say about fear, but let's see what the Bible say about it. Right? It's Wisdom of Solomon chapter 17 and verse 12. For fear is nothing else but a betraying of the succors which reason offereth. Reason meaning common knowledge, common sense, right? And the expectation from within, being less counteth the ignorance more than the cause which bringeth the torment. No, that might sound a little bit hard to understand. So I'm gonna read it in a easier fashion. Translation. So it's Wisdom of Solomon chapter 17 and verse 12. It says, just give me a second. I'm going to get it in plain words so we all can understand what fear is. It says, fear is nothing but the failure to use the help that reason gives. You see that? The failure to use the help. So whatever reality gives, like, okay, the moon tells you the month, the sun tells you the days and the years. Fear is the failure to use that. It says, when you lack the confidence to rely on reason, you give into the fears caused by the ignorance. When you lack the confidence, you're not confident enough to go to what the sun says about days and years. You're not confident to go to what the moon says about nights, weeks, and months. You're not confident enough to go to what the sun says when it goes through the constellations, when it talks about seasons. You do not have that confidence to anchor your belief system to a reality. So guess what? It says, you give into the fears caused by your own ignorance. You give into the fears. You see what it's caused by? Ignorance. So fear feeds on you not knowing. And it's similar to faith, because Faith and fear based on you relies on you doing what? Believing in things that you can't really see. But the thing about faith is it comes with understanding. You hear a lot of people talk about blind faith and this. Your faith has to be based on understanding. Otherwise, it's just a belief. When the Most High said to Abraham, Abraham, get out of here and go there and do. Abraham had an understanding. He's not just traveling blindly. He had an understanding. Most people, when they talk, oh, faith, this, I walk by faith, not by sight. But if your faith does not come with understanding, where can it lead you to? Where can
Destruction.
it? Exactly. So faith is understanding based, and then when that manifests in the body, it's expressed as well-being. You find a state of happiness because what? You're no longer locked into this dark thoughts, these ignorance of your mind. You're connecting what? You're connecting your belief system to a reality. The Gregorian calendar is not anchored to a reality. This is why they can tell you that 12 months of the Gregorian calendar equals a year. That's a lie. It's not anchored to a reality. Yeah. We have any questions so far? Anything that we need to know or ask about the sun and the moon? Can we see how it's anchored to the time system that the Most High gave us?
I just wanted.
Hold on, let me turn off the mic so you can speak.
My apologies. I just wanted to go over the cycle of the moon one more time, where you were saying that the full moon is the beginning of the month, right? And then now, how does it progress thereafter? You said 14 days thereafter. Because I'm trying to get an understanding just of the 7 day cycle.
Of the moon now, this is why you need the physical reality to prove what you're going to hear. So for example, on the 12th of April was the full moon, right? Was what we call the new moon, right? That day is the seventh day. Remember, the seventh day is a worship day. The seventh day is a worship day, meaning that that's not a day you would work. It's not a day of work, and it's not a Sabbath either, because on the new moon day you are permitted to cook. Remember, on the Sabbath you are not permitted to cook. Why aren't you permitted to cook? Because on the Sabbath is 6 work days, then the Sabbath. So on the 6th day here, you have that day to prepare for the Sabbath. On the new moon, you do not have 6 days before it. You understand? So this is why you are permitted to cook. You do not have a preparation day for the new moon. So there's a difference between new moon and the Sabbath. Let's go to Ezekiel to confirm that, because a lot of people don't understand this because they don't put reality into the scriptures. Ezekiel 46 and verse 1. Let's read it and get some understanding. It says, "Thus saith Yahweh, the gate of the inner court that looketh toward the east shall be shut the 6 working days." So 6 working days, right? It says, "But on the Sabbath," right, "it shall be opened, and in the day of the new moon it shall be open." So hold on. If there are 7 days in a week, if 6 days the gate should be shut, but on the Sabbath it should be opened, and also on the new moon it should be open. What is that telling you? It's saying that the new moon is the 7th day of the week, falls under the 7th day of the week, and the Sabbath also falls under the 7th day of the week. How do we make the distinction? When the new moon, when it falls on the beginning of the cycle of the moon, it's called a new moon. Now, after that day pass, then you're gonna start the first day of the week. So that's when you're gonna have 6 work days. And then when it comes around, so guess what? Last week Saturday was our new moon, right? Now we go through 6 work days. Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, whatever, come all the way down. So yesterday was what? A Sabbath. So you understand? Each month starts with a worship day. It's a worship day. It's new moon day. Like I said, you are permitted to cook on that day. 6 work days. than the Sabbath. Now let's go to one more example. I want the scripture in Isaac. In Isaac, coming to grace. Are you here? Maybe you can help me with the scripture. Where it says from one new moon to the next. Is what Isaiah 66? Let me see. Isaiah 66 verse 23. Look at this. It says, and it shall come to pass that from one new moon to another, and from one Sabbath to another, shall all flesh come to worship before me, saith Yahweh. Now listen again. Where am I? 23. And it shall come to pass that from one new moon to another. What's the distance from one new moon to another based on what I just explained? One new moon is going to be 29 or 30 days to the next new moon. You understand? So the 12th of April was new moon for us. It's going to be about the 12th of May before it reaches the next new moon. So that's a space of 29, 30 days right there. Right? From the distance from one Sabbath, what it says, from one Sabbath to the another Sabbath. What's the distance? 6 work days. Last week Saturday was our new moon. So yesterday was our Sabbath, right? Next week Saturday is going to be the next Sabbath. The distance there is 6 days. So a new moon has to be different from a Sabbath. A Sabbath, you are permitted to cook because you have a preparation day. A new moon, you do not have a preparation day. So this is why people cannot understand that the first day of each month is the 7th day of the week. Let me say that again. The first day of each month is the 7th day of the week. Let's go back to Genesis chapter 2 and verse 1 and 2. It says, thus the heavens and the earth were finished, and all the hosts of them. And on the 7th day, God ended his work which he had made, and he rested on the 7th day. This is where the problem is. He rested on what day? The 7th. People think it's the Sabbath. It's only the Sabbath. No. New moon day is also the 7th day. Sabbath is also the 7th day. So this is what they don't understand. The rest is about the 7th day. This is why he said back in Ezekiel, he says they should not do such things on the day of the new moon. Because what? You have a holy convocation. When you have a holy convocation, you do no servile work. A lot of people cannot understand that because they think that new moon and the Sabbath. Okay, let's use the ritual to confirm that, because I don't think people can get this, can process this, because matter of fact they're not even accustomed to these type of information, right? Let's show you that there's a difference, right? I'm gonna start at, I'm in Numbers chapter 28, right? It says, I'm gonna use okay, let me just go ahead and read them. It says, and Yahweh spake unto Moses, saying, command the children of Israel, and say unto them, my offering and my bread for my sacrifices made by fire, for a sweet savor unto me, shall ye observe to offer unto me in their due season. And thou shalt say unto them, this is the offering made by fire, which ye shall offer unto Yahweh. Listen to the offerings. 2 lambs of the first year, without spot, day by day, for a continual burnt offering. The one lamb shall thou offer in the morning, and the other lamb shall thou offer at even. And a 10th part of an ephah of flour for a meat offering, mingled with the 4th part of an hin of beaten oil. It is a continual burnt offering which was ordained in Mount Sinai for a sweet savor unto a sacrifice made by fire unto Yahweh. And the drink offering thereof shall be 4th part of an hin. For the one lamb in the holy place shall thou cause a strong wine to be poured unto Yahweh for a drink offering. And the other lamb shall thou offer at even as the meat offering of the morning, and as the drink offering thereof. Thou shalt offer it a sacrifice made by fire of a sweet savor unto Yahweh. And listen to this. And on the Sabbath day, 2 lambs of the first year without spot, and 2/10 deals of flour for a meat offering mingled with oil, the drink offering thereof. This is the burnt offering of every Sabbath beside the continual burnt offering and his drink. So this is the sacrifice or the rituals for the Sabbath. Listen this now. Verse 11 says, and in the beginning of your months, plural, how many months in a year? 12. In the beginning of each month, this is a new moon day. Now let's see if it's the same rituals that are performed on the Sabbath. Then we can say it's the same day. Yes, just a moment with that question. Let me deal with this. And in the beginning of your months, you shall offer a burnt offering unto Yahweh, 2 young bullocks and 1 ram and 7 lambs of the first year without spot. So guess what? If you walk into the temple and you see, say you don't know what day it is, your whatever, and you see 2 young bullocks and 1 ram and 7 lambs, right? You are going to know that that is a new moon day. You see what I'm saying? So these distinctions are there, and these distinctions are very clear for people to be saying, oh, the Sabbath, the new moon is a Sabbath. No, the new moon is not a Sabbath. The new moon is a 7th day. But it's not a Sabbath. It's not a weekly Sabbath. That's what I mean. It's not a weekly Sabbath. A weekly Sabbath is 6 work days, then the 7th day. So these are clear distinction. You walk in the temple, you see they have 2 young bullocks, 7 lambs, and 1 ram. You know that that's a new moon day. It's clear. So people are willfully choosing to believe what they want to believe. It's not that they don't understand this. To say, oh, a Sabbath is a new moon is a Sabbath. You just read where it says from one new moon to another. What's the distance in days from one new moon to another? 29 days, 30 days. From one Sabbath to another is only 6 days. So they choose to believe their own lies. Or like it says in Wisdom of Solomon, is the fear. They don't have the confidence to tie the realities of God to what they believe, to their belief. So they are destroyed by that ignorance. They are not confident in the word of God. That's what it says. It says, and to clarify what the scripture says. Hold on. Let's go back to the Ecclesiasticus 43. Verse 6, it says, he made the moon also to serve in her season for a declaration of times and a sign of the world. A sign is something visible, right? That means you can see it. It says, a light. What is a light? The moon. The moon is a light that decreases. This is why it says, a light that decreaseth in her perfection. What is the perfection of the moon? The full moon. That's when it's in its full glory. It says it is a light that decreases. So the moon is a what? What's the key word? It's a light, because it has to fully illuminated. Exactly, because it has to be a sign. If it's a dark moon, that's a sign to the world. Can you look up there and see the dark moon? I want somebody to go out next week, Friday, Saturday, or Sunday, and I want them to go and take a picture of that moon. Since it is a sign, and a sign is visible, because it says, let it be for a sign. And if this is a sign, it means you can see it, you can hear it, or something to warn you. Right, exactly. So it's a light where it doesn't matter if you're on the eastern part of the world or you're on the western. Once it is the day of the full moon, everybody will know and say, yes, that is it. It's our new moon. Our new cycle has started. Everyone understand that? So this is why we say, okay, if you crash land on an island, no phones, no internet, how are you going to tell the Sabbath? How are you going to tell your feast days? You see what I'm saying? So people do not have the confidence to use the realities of God, because God for them is just a concept in the mind. There is no reality to it. It's a concept. We anchor our calendar system to the things in the heavens. This is why we keep the feast on time. We keep it in their due season. That's what the months are for. So the 14th day of the first month, you know, that's your spring feast. You understand? The next one is the 4th month of the year. That's harvest. Because let's go to John. I think John chapter 4 verse 35. I think that's what I want. Let me see. John chapter 4 verse 35. Let me see if this is what I want. It says, "Say not ye," it's written in red, so this is Yahweh Shai speaking. "There are yet 4 months, and then cometh harvest." So what is telling you? 4 months after the new year, the fourth moon after the sun crosses the hemisphere, it's gonna be harvest. Because when you understand the realities of the sun and the moon and the constellations, guess what? The sun crosses, we start in our spring season now. So guess what? It's going to go through 1 month, 2 months, 3 months. After 3 moons, the sun is going to make a turn coming back. So it's going to go higher. So this is where it gets to pump all the helium in the earth. So after the water season passes, when you get the water season, the water season is going to come and it's going to bring up the fruits, right? So now, after the water season, after that rain, the sun is now going to come and pump all the helium, all the energy. So in the fourth moon, you can now harvest your crops. That's the smaller part of harvest, right? So this is why I said, how can you take out the sun, the moon, and the stars, and you're talking about agriculture? You're not ready for the conversations. That conversation. How can I learn those? You can inbox Coming to Grace or Empress Melanin, and we'll take it from there, Cutie Pie, if you're interested in knowing that. And we can send you also a copy of, matter of fact, it's on the page too, a copy of the calendar, but we can send you the file. And you can also, just inbox one of those persons, one of those people, Empress Melanin or Coming to Grace. And would you like to come up? Would you like to come up, Cutie? Okay, all right. Coming to Grace is gonna inbox you. A farmer's almanac. You get that at your store. If you're in like America or so, probably you can buy that online. Or in certain places, you can go to your farm store. But usually they get that in January because their New Year starts in January. So it's gonna be hard to get one for this year right now. But maybe depending on where you are. But it's really the same thing. It's because the pattern of the constellations is always the same. So the farming cycle is always the same. You know that, okay, coming onto a black moon, that's the time you weed your gardens. You don't really plant on the black moon, especially when it's the seventh day of the black moon, the second phase of the black moon. That's a seventh day where you really do not do certain things. You understand? The quarter moon that just passed yesterday, that you do not plant on that moon. You understand? And then there's going to be another one next week, Saturday. You do not plant on those phases. So the cycles are going to be the same. Once you're physically into the earth or into the soil, you're naturally going to be, it's going to be in your consciousness. You're not going to need a book. It's going to be in the tablet of your mind. Does the moon affect conceiving also? Yes, the moon ties into the conception as well. Even with the animals, it's the same thing. So if you have your cows and your goats or so forth, well, I don't know about sheep. It's the same, but I don't know from experience because I don't have sheep. But with the cow and the goat, when it comes down to that full moon, and even with you guys, with us human beings, you'll notice that even on the full moon, the spirit of lust is stronger on you. If you pay attention to the cycles, like for example, you'll have some guys in your inbox, these messages, you go over them, you don't even see them, but coming out to the full moon, that's the time you go to dig up some message from 1982. It's the spirit of lust that takes strong effect, and the Asmodeus is stronger at the full moon. So even if you pay attention to our cycles, you can see it impacts. She's laughing. It sounds away, but I'm telling you, it's true. It's true. It is true. That sounds very funny. But yeah, Asmodeus becomes stronger, the tiding of the water, the emotional nature of the human being, all of that ties together. So this is why lust is a spirit of the water. And even if you want to get rid of that, this is why you pray midnight prayers. That's when you hey, okay, the comment section is going crazy now. So if you start to learn and understand earth, air, water, and fire, and the spirit, you will understand your nature easier. This is why I said people who follow the what I call it, zodiac horoscope type of thing, what they don't understand is, okay, according to that pattern, I'm a Capricorn, right? But that would be an annual cycle. What am I during the month of February? What am I during the month of March, April? You see what I'm saying? So which element is predominant in what case, in what situation? So we have to have the knowledge of earth, air, water, and fire, because these are the things that operate the sensations in our body. I say something you don't like, you feel that fire rising, that sensation. You see what I'm saying? You can feel that tingling fire burning. That's somebody that you thought you were over with. It happened. You had a fight 10 years ago, 15 years ago. You thought it was done with because you never saw the person again. Now the person coming in your sight. Guess what? The sensation rising. That's that fire. You see what I'm saying? So once you start to under some comments in this live were filtered to protect the community hey, what are you guys doing down there in the comment section? That's TikTok filter you. Remember, I'm already on my ban warning, so one more strike and I'm out. This is why I soon have to finish this live, because I don't want to lose it. I'm losing all of them, and I want to put this on the YouTube channel. And but Cutie Pie, coming to Grace will inbox you, and you guys can talk from there. And if we don't have anything more to say on this topic, because I'm really on a thin line and I don't want to lose this. So do we have any more questions? But yes, the moon is important for years for the cycle as well. Like I said, that water, the emotional nature of the human being. There is one. Yeah, go ahead with it. Cutie, send coming to Grace a request. Send coming to Grace a request. And yeah, what's the question, Empress?
No, I have this time. None at this time.
When you said there is one, what are you talking about down there? Okay.
I was talking about the backup page.
Oh, the backup page. Oh, the backup page. Okay, yeah, I understand. Yeah, so the elements is important for us to understand the elements and how they affect different areas of our life. So our job is to get the elements operating in order. The cycle of earth, air, water, and fire. The spirit is the fifth element that is superior to these things. You understand? But the spirit is not going to stop you from doing this or doing that. It's just going to say what, okay, you're the observer. You're the one observing the different states of element changing inside of you. So you'll notice that in the summertime is what? It's all fired up. Party, excitement, activity. But when there's rain, what happens? It's more chill and relax and so forth. So when you know which element is predominant, for example, if when the rain falls, what state are your body and your mind in? Is it in a more relaxed state because water cools fire? You understand? But if you're a water person and the water is predominant, guess what? When you're a water person and there's too much water, excess water, the rainy season are in the that time, and there's a lot of water, it makes you get a dull feeling. That's too much water. So you know that the water is predominant. So these are elements that once we understand them, we can understand our own behavioral patterns and problems, and then we can solve them to understand that earth, air, water, and fire, they function at the lower nature, body, mind, and the intellect. But the consciousness, the spirit, is superior. And once you can stay there in your meditation, guess what? You can look at the sensation rising to go and fight that person. You can look at the desire of your lust, which is your water element, taking effect, want to go there, but you can just stay here and not having to act. How do you know what element are you? It's about what element is predominant. This is what I'm saying. We are all made up of what? Bits and pieces of the element. So the air responsible for the mental state, the water, emotional state, the fire, the spiritual state, and the which one am I missing? The earth is your physical body, right? But they operate on the three different realms: overthinking, air element. Are you speaking to come into Grace? Huh? She's the one always doing that overthinking, right? Right, coming to Grace? How do you know what element are you? Blessings. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You are all four elements, but it's about which one is predominant. So when you observe your behavior, you're going to know which one is predominant. So like she just mentioned, overthinking. If you're overthinking, it means your air element is predominant in that moment. If you see that you want to go and like this excitement and this party and that that's your fire element. You just want to go and have sex. That's your fire element. It deals with that excitement. Water is your emotion, right? And the air is your Bush, would you like to come up and tell us? Hey, you are the right person. Hey, Scotty, you are the right person. You should be on this platform. Can you come on? I don't know if you missed the first part of it. Can you come up and let us talk about that? I'm gonna send you an invite. You know you are the right person to be here. Farmer. So we have a farmer lady here. I don't know if she wants to tell us more about that. If you're a water element, that if you're a water person, that means your emotion state is, But what happens with the water is it allows you, the water element allows you. Just joining for the first time. Oh, okay. So you just want to listen. That's okay. No problem. Welcome. I hope to see you around, especially that you're into agriculture. We're actually like building a a community. Like, we have people in different parts. We have people in St. Thomas as well, and so forth. So we're trying to build a community where people can tap into that and in the end to really live free to some extent, if you understand what I mean. So we believe in agriculture and have a connection with the Most High and nature and be one with it and everything. I'm a little busy in the kitchen. Yes, prepare that Sunday dinner. I can smell it. I smell the chicken. Well, I'm air elemental, which is quite obvious. The one that's always thinking, right? So so the water element, the water is the body, the soul, and the spirit. So what is the water in the body? One message. Who is here? Blessings. What is the water element in the body? Proud adversary. Yes. So the water in the body deals with the fuel and the blood, all the liquid that's there, right? In the soul, it deals with the emotion, just as we talk about, and the spirit, it deals with lust. That's what the water is in the realm of the spirit. It deals with the lust, which we just talked about, and it's channeled in its full power in the full moon mainly. And like I said, once you're observing your behavioral patterns, you will know that everything is on a cycle. Pay attention to the timing of the events. You'll see that they're on a cycle. So yes, if you want to learn yourself, learn the elements. Yes, it gets so strong during the full moon. Yes, it becomes unbearable, you know. So lust is in the spirit. And this is why there's a thin line between lust and love. Majority of us are confused. Do I love this person, or is it a lust that I have? You understand? So it's important to really go into meditation to see what you're really experiencing. What's the root of it? Where is it really coming from? Do I really love the person, or is it a lust? Because they take place in the same part, so it's kind of hard to discern sometimes, you know. So yes, it gets so strong during the full moon. Okay, anybody else have anything to say? Proud adversary. Oh, okay, air element. So the proud adversary is the person that's governed by the air element. So let's talk about the air in the body, the impulses, right? The ear in the soul is knowledge. This is where you get corrupt. You get corrupted by knowledge. Not saying you in particular. I'm saying us as human beings. This is where the serpent can corrupt us through knowledge, right? What other area? And the spirit, it influences the spirit. So it's coincidence. Yesterday I learn about element in my mind. Blessings. Are you busy in the kitchen too? You want to come up? Would you like to come up and talk about, tell us or share? And now here you are teaching about element. It's a sign from the gods then, if it works like that, as Christians would say, confirmation, right? It's a sign from the cosmos. So do we have any questions? I think we switched from the whole of that, gone into elements. And okay, she said, okay, what do I mean? That I send you an invite. Okay, let me see if that's what you're saying. Okay, too. I sent you an invite, it disappears, so I don't know What's up? Do we have any more questions? Anybody from the comment section want to say something? Anybody want to add something? Just a sign to dig deeper. Okay, coming to grace says it's a sign to dig deeper. She's among us, so I think she knows what to do. Right, blessings? We haven't seen you in a while, but we know how it goes. We know that family life and everything is there. So the whole point is I hope this gives an understanding of how the elements work and how it relates to, you know, heaven and earth, basically, because the light has to be impact what in manifestation. I can't come live. No, that's okay. That's okay. For me, I spend a lot of time at the river. Also, at times I will feed the river with fruits. That's a good thing. That's you in alignment with it, and that's what it does. It brings you that peace. And this is why when you get into the cycles of the circuits of the elements, you start your day with what element? Water, because water is where you get into that peace. You start your day, you have your glass of water, you get into your prayer, your meditation, you read your certain scriptures, or some people they say affirmations, whatever, you know, it puts you in that state, right? So when you start your day with the water element, right, this conversation certainly opened me up to wanting to learn more. It's a beautiful topic. We can discuss that in the group. Oh, we can discuss that in our group call tonight, probably then as well. You know, there's so many topics. Don't know if it makes sense, but I do that. Yes, of course, it makes sense. It's you aligning yourself with the element. You understand what I'm saying? So this is what I said. This is a good thing to start your day with the element, with the water element. It doesn't matter what your elements are. It's good to start your day on that note. So you start it with prayer, like I said, the scriptures, affirmations, whatever it is, and that's how you go off into the rest of your day, right? And it follows the same thing for relationships, right? How do we start relationships today? What elements do we start it with most of the times? This should be interesting now, right? What elements do we start our relationships with? You go to the party. You go to the party. You drink. You meet this hot guy, this hot girl, and the only thing you want to do is, right? Excited. You just want to go and do it, right? Then you say, okay, let's do it. Let's go to the, you know, to the bathroom, to the car, to the parking lot. That's what element is that? Earth. Earth is about manifestation, manifesting, the physicality. You understand? And then guess what? After you wake up the next morning, what happens? How do you feel? That's the time you want to ask questions. That's your ear element. Oh, what's your name? When I'm gonna see you again, what's your phone number? What's your address? How many siblings you have? Tell me about your family. That's the time the ear element comes in. But it's a little bit too late. You understand? Because there's no connection. This is where the water comes in. There's no connection. It's done. But what happens when you start your relationship with your water element? Can anybody put it into practicality? When you start the relationship with your water element, the first thing you're gonna realize is, oh, there's a feeling here. Let me observe it. Let me see what this feeling is. Let me see why I feel this way. You know? And then you start to question it. This is where your ear comes in. Knowledge. What's your name? What are you interested in? What's your spiritual beliefs? What are you into? You're building upon that feeling. So you're getting to know the person. You understand what I'm saying? You're taking the element in stages. Then what comes after that? If you want to go out, maybe you want to go to a movie. Let's see a movie. Let's go have dinner. Let's go by as Kathy said, let's go by the river and feed the fishes. You understand? But then afterwards you just say, you know what? Nah, this is not for me. We're not in alignment. We're not, you know. So that's the earth element. That's it. So if we can get the elements to operate in us under our subjection, then we can do what? Determine our outcomes. So when you can determine your outcome, guess what? You already can make your discernment from there. You don't need to fulfill the desire that rises up in you, the sensation that rises up. Oh, he's a hot guy. Oh, he's a hot girl. The big booty, all of this. You don't have to act on that desire. You go through the sequence or the process of the elements in you. And when it's completed, you make your decision. So you don't feel like you lost something in the end. Oh, I just did the same thing over and over and over. So you see, everything is governed by laws. Whether we think there's a law to it or we think there's not a law, we're still governed by the laws and we're still going to be judged by the same law. Yeah. So that decision you make when you were excited with the fire element kicking, partying, drinking, all of that, that same fire is going to come back and judge you. So it's important for us to understand the elements on all levels. Like I said, the heavens testify of every single thing on earth. It bears witness to everything on earth, from plants to animals to humans, anything you can think of. Any questions? Scotty, I think you need to join the team. Coming to Grace, I want you to inbox Scotty. Okay, so I guess we can end it here. I hope this gives some understanding of the agricultural cycle, the elements, and how it relates to agriculture and the Sabbath, the calendar of the Most High, the holy days, how everything ties in, and with the scriptures to support. And once you guys start to put into practicality your belief system, that's how you cultivate a belief into a faith. You know, faith without works is dead. So the belief has to come with an action. It has to come with something tangible for it to become faith. So let's put what we know into practicality and we start to nurture the word of God into us. We start to integrate it into our daily experiences. Right? So I hope this answer, even if you guys didn't ask certain question, I hope whatever was discussed here had answered some question that you had in your mind for a very long time, right? And I hope to see you guys again. And this is where I say shalom and thank you guys for joining. Thank you guys for liking the live. Thank you guys for the support and everything. See you next time.